The warehouse smelled like old paper and something else. Rot, maybe. Or just time. The British men of letters team stood in the archive room with their flashlights cutting through decades of dust. This wasn't their facility. It belonged to the American branch, the one that died out in the 50s. Now it was theirs by right of salvage. "Cataloging will take months," said the lead officer. He swept his light across rows of file boxes stacked to the ceiling. "But headquarters wants a preliminary sweep by Friday." His second, a woman named Ketch, tapped her tablet. 17 rooms. Most are documents. 3 contain specimens. Specimens. Preserved, contained. Unclear which. The officer frowned. The Americans had been thorough about some things, careless about others. They'd locked doors and left no keys. Sealed chambers with no manifests. It was bureaucratic chaos dressed up as procedure. "Start with the documents." "And," he said, "we'll address containment after we know what we're dealing with." But Ketch had already moved toward the back hall. Her light found a steel door with a placard so faded the text was barely visible. She leaned close. "Humanoid," she read aloud. "Potentially hostile. Recommend minimal visual contact." The officer joined her. "No designation number, none listed." "Then it's pre-Foundation. American occult, perhaps. Open it." Ketch hesitated. "Sir, the protocol." "We have protocol. Containment foam distance tasers, full suppression kits." He gestured to the equipment cases stacked near the entrance. "Whatever the Americans were afraid of, we're prepared for it." She nodded and worked the lock. It took 20 minutes and a pry bar, but the door gave. The room beyond was small, dark. A single shape sat in the corner, hunched and still. The officer aimed his light. It was tall, pale. Its limbs bent wrong, too long at the joints. The skin had no color at all, like something that had never seen sun. It didn't move when the light hit it. Didn't react. "Sedated?" Ketch asked. "Or docile?" The thing sat with its hands covering its face. Its fingers were thin skeletal. It made no sound. "We'll need transport," the officer said. "Reinforced, and a visual blackout during transfer." "You're moving it." "We're not leaving assets in an unsecured American facility. Get a team, full quarantine measures." Ketch made the call. The transport took 3 days to arrange. During that time, the creature they'd started calling it Subject 1 remained motionless in its corner. It didn't eat. Didn't sleep as far as anyone could tell. Just sat with its face hidden occasionally, making a low sound like breathing through a damaged throat. On the morning of the move, they wrapped it in blackout fabric. Heavy canvas that let no light through. It didn't resist. Didn't react at all until they tried to lower its hands from its face. Then it made a noise, high, thin, wrong, and they backed off fast. "Leave the hands," the officer ordered. "Just wrap around them." They loaded it into a reinforced container. Steel walls, no windows, climate controlled. The truck had police escort for the first 100 miles, then nothing. Just highway and the hum of refrigeration units. Inside the operations vehicle, trailing behind Ketch, monitored the internal camera. Standard procedure. The feed showed the container's interior in grainy black and white. The canvas-wrapped shape sat against one wall, unmoving. "Vitals?" the officer asked from the passenger seat. "Stable. No elevated stress markers." "Good. ETA to the facility?" 4 hours. He nodded and returned to his tablet, reviewing acquisition reports from the archive. 32 occult artifacts, 17 grimoires, 6 items of unknown function, and Subject 1, which the preliminary assessment had labeled Ambulatory anomaly, containment unknown. The Americans had been idiots to abandon this place. An hour into the drive, the camera feed flickered. Ketch frowned and tapped the screen. The image stabilized, but something had shifted. The canvas had moved. Just slightly. A fold had come loose near what might have been the thing's head. "We have a visual breach," she said. The officer looked up. "How much?" "Minimal. Less than an inch of exposure." "Can you see its face?" "No, just fabric gap." He exhaled. "Monitor it. If the breach widens, we stop and reseal." Ketch kept watching. The shape didn't move. The fabric stayed where it was, but the camera kept flickering. Little jumps in the feed, like the signal was cutting out for fractions of a second. She was about to report the issue when the screen froze completely. For 2 seconds, the image locked. The canvas, the gap, and through it, just barely visible in the low light, a sliver of pale skin. Something that might have been a cheek or the edge of an eye socket. The feed cut to black, then returned. The canvas was fully in place again. No breach, no gap. "Lost signal for a moment," Ketch said. "But containment appears intact." The officer grunted acknowledgement and went back to his tablet. Ketch stared at the screen a moment longer, then minimized the window and opened her task list. She had 3 reports due by end of day. The camera feed saved automatically. Someone in analysis could review it later if needed. She didn't think about it again until the screaming started. That night in a hotel 2 states away, Ketch woke to her phone vibrating. She checked the screen. 3 missed calls from headquarters, a text marked urgent. She called back. "We have a situation," said the voice on the other end. Director Hess from the London office. Her tone was flat. "Your transport driver is dead." Ketch sat up. "How?" "We're still determining that. The vehicle was found abandoned on a rural access road. Driver's body was inside the cab. Severe trauma. The container is gone." "Gone?" "The trailer was detached and removed. We're tracking it now." "What about subject 1? A pause. "We don't know. The container's sealed. But we've lost contact with the asset." Ketch's throat tightened. "The camera feed. We reviewed it. There's a 2-second anomaly where the image froze. Our analysts isolated a single frame." Another pause, heavier this time. "It shows partial facial exposure. Approximately 40% of subject 1's features visible." "I saw the gap in the fabric. It was minor. Less than..." "The recording shows more than the live feed did. Significant more. We believe the camera captured what you missed in real time." Ketch's stomach dropped. "Who else has seen the footage?" "Analysis team, 3 people, plus the technician who flagged it." "Are they?" "We've moved them to secure observation. Standard quarantine protocol for potential cognitohazard exposure." Ketch stood and started dressing. "I need to see the frame." "Negative. Until we understand subject 1's trigger mechanism, all visual records are restricted. You're ordered to return to facility immediately. We're activating full containment sweep." The call ended. Ketch sat on the edge of the bed, phone in hand. She thought about the canvas gap, the flicker in the feed, that moment when the image froze and she saw... What had she seen? She couldn't remember. Her mind kept sliding away from it, like trying to hold water in her hands. Her phone buzzed again, a message from an unknown number. No text, just an image file. She knew she shouldn't open it. Her thumb hovered over the screen. In the hotel room across the hall, something made a sound. low and thin like breathing through a broken throat. Ketch deleted the message without opening it. She packed in 4 minutes and left through the fire exit. 3 days later, bodies started appearing. Not all at once. Not in a pattern anyone noticed immediately. A data analyst in Cleveland, a field agent in Pittsburgh, a contractor who'd worked on the archive recovery. They died in their homes, in their cars, in locked rooms, with no sign of forced entry. The British men of letters kept it quiet. Internal investigation, need-to-know basis. But Sam Winchester had sources. People who owed him favors, people who noticed when hunters started dying for no reason. The first call came from a coroner in Ohio. "You asked me to flag anything strange," she said. "I've got something." "How strange?" "Body came in yesterday. Male mid-30s found in his apartment. Neighbors reported screaming, but when police arrived, the door was still locked from inside. No signs of break-in. Cause of death: massive trauma, blunt force. But here's the thing, the injuries are extensive. I'm talking dozens of impact points. Like he was beaten to death by something that didn't stop when he died." Sam pulled up a map on his laptop and marked the location. "Any idea what did it?" "No, but there are marks on the walls. Scratches, deep ones. Like something climbed." "Anything taken?" "Not that we can tell. And Sam..." The victim had security footage, but the hard drive was destroyed. Smashed into pieces. Sam thanked her and hung up. He stared at the map for a long moment, then picked up the phone again. "Dean," he said when his brother answered. "We've got something." The body lay on the steel table under fluorescent lights that made everything look worse than it was. Sam stood next to the coroner, a woman in her 50s named Dr. Rivera, while she gestured at the injuries with a pen. "Blunt force trauma," she said. "Multiple impact sites. Ribs, sternum, skull, pelvis. We're counting 47 distinct points of contact." Sam took notes. "Weapon. That's the problem. Look at the pattern." She traced the pen across the corpse's torso. "These aren't clustered. They're distributed across the entire body, front and back. If someone was beating him with a bat or a pipe, you'd see focus areas. This is systematic. Like he was thrown around or crushed repeatedly from multiple angles." Rivera pulled back and crossed her arms. "I've seen car accidents with less damage. But there's no vehicle involvement. He was found in his apartment, locked from the inside." "Yeah, that's what the report says." Sam moved closer to examine the wounds himself. The flesh around each impact site was pulped layers of tissue compressed together. But there were other marks, too. Long scratches running down both arms. Deep gouges, 4 parallel lines. "Defensive wounds?" he asked. "That's what I thought initially. But look at the angle." Rivera pointed. "These go from shoulder to wrist, downward, like something grabbed him and pulled. With claws. Or nails. Very strong ones." Sam photographed the marks with his phone, then stepped back to get a wider shot of the table. Dean was going to want to see this. He always wanted to see it, even when it made things worse. "The victim worked where?" Sam asked. Rivera checked her clipboard. "Data analysis, some private security firm. British, I think. Very hush-hush about details." Sam felt something tighten in his chest. British. That word kept coming up. Did he have any connection to occult materials? Artifacts? Anything unusual in his possession? Police inventory shows normal stuff. Laptop, phone books. Nothing weird. She paused. Although the laptop was destroyed. Hard drive pulled out and smashed. Same with his backup drives. Someone wanted his data gone. Or something. Sam thanked her and headed out to the parking lot where Dean was waiting by the Impala, leaning against the hood with a cup of coffee in each hand. He held one out as Sam approached. "So," Dean said. "Demon shifter?" "Neither." Sam took the coffee and opened his laptop on the hood. No sulfur, no strange DNA, just a guy beaten to death in a locked room. "Great. My favorite kind of hunt. The impossible kind." Sam pulled up the file he'd been building for the last 36 hours. 4 deaths across 3 states, all within the past week. He added the new data from Rivera's autopsy. "Look at this," he said, turning the screen toward Dean. "Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Columbus, now Toledo. Different victims, different locations, but the same injury pattern, same level of violence, same destroyed electronics." Dean studied the map. Maybe someone's targeting this British security company. Corporate espionage gone medieval. Except 2 of the victims didn't work for them directly. One was a freelance tech contractor. The other was a field researcher. They just had connections to the company. "So what's the connection?" Sam clicked through to another document. They all accessed the same internal database. Within a 3-day window, 2 weeks ago. Dean straightened. "Database of what? I don't know yet. The company's locked down tight. No public records, no press. They're operating like a black box. Sounds like men of letters." "That's what I thought." Dean drained his coffee and crushed the cup. "So we're thinking curse, some kind of triggered hex." "Maybe, but curses usually have rituals, components. This just happens. You access the file, and a week later something kills you. Then we find the file and burn it. It's digital, Dean. Then we burn the servers." Sam closed the laptop and rubbed his eyes. He'd been awake for 22 hours, and the pattern still didn't make sense. 4 deaths, 4 locked rooms, no witnesses, no forced entry, just violence that appeared and vanished like weather. "There's something else," he said. Rivera mentioned scratches on the victim, downward gouges, like something climbed down from above to get to him. Dean looked up at the gray sky. Ceiling crawler, that's new. Or old. Could be something from the archives this company pulled out of storage. And it's pissed. Or just doing what it does. They stood in silence for a moment. Traffic moved past on the street. Normal people living normal lives, unaware that somewhere in the country, something was hunting specific targets with mechanical precision. Dean broke the quiet first. "We need access to that company. They're not going to let us walk in and ask questions. Then we don't ask." Sam gave him a look. "Breaking into a private military contractor is a bad idea. Got a better one?" Before Sam could answer, his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost let it go to voicemail, then changed his mind and picked up. "Winchester." The voice on the other end was male, older, with a clipped British accent. "Mr. Winchester, my name is Arthur Ketch. I work for an organization that's recently become aware of your activities." Sam glanced at Dean and mouthed British. Dean's expression shifted immediately. "What organization?" Sam asked. "One that shares your interest in unusual phenomena. We've been tracking the same deaths you have. We'd like to meet, compare notes, perhaps collaborate on containment." "Containment of what?" A pause. "That's what we're hoping you can help us determine. You have a reputation for solving problems others can't." Sam leaned against the Impala. "And you have a reputation for letting those problems out in the first place. I see you've done your homework. Then you know we take these matters seriously." We have resources, information, things that might save lives if shared with the right people. What kind of information? The kind best discussed face to face. There's a diner off Route 80, Miller's Family Restaurant. We can meet there in 2 hours. How do you know where we are? We're very good at our jobs, Mr. Winchester. 2 hours. Come alone or bring your brother. Your choice. But come unarmed of any unpleasantness. This is a professional courtesy, not a trap. The line went dead. Dean was already frowning. British men of letters. Yeah. Fantastic. Because they've been so helpful in the past. Sam stared at his phone. The British men of letters had been quiet for months. Radio silence after their last disaster. Now they were calling him directly, offering information about deaths that didn't fit any known pattern. Which meant they knew something. Something bad enough to ask for help. We're going, Sam said. Bad idea. Probably. But if they know what's killing these people, we need to hear it. Dean opened the driver's side door. And if they're the reason it's killing these people. Sam got in the passenger seat. Then we have a different kind of problem. The Impala's engine turned over with its familiar rumble. Dean pulled out of the parking lot and headed toward the highway. Neither of them spoke for the first 10 miles. Finally, Dean said, "You think this is bigger than 4 bodies? I think 4 bodies is just what we're seeing. There could be more." "How many more?" Sam didn't answer. He was looking at his laptop again, scrolling through news reports. Accidents, suicides, unexplained deaths in locked locations. He'd filtered by date and found 6 more possibles in the last 10 days. 10 deaths total. Maybe more that hadn't been reported yet. All connected by something invisible. Something that found you wherever you were and ended you with absolute efficiency. "We need to know the trigger," Sam said quietly. "The what?" "Whatever activates this thing. There has to be a trigger, a condition. You don't just die for no reason. In our line of work, people die for stupid reasons all the time. Not like this. This is targeted, specific. It's following a rule we haven't figured out yet." Dean glanced over. "So what's the rule?" Sam closed the laptop. Outside the window, fields rolled past under heavy clouds. Somewhere out there, someone else might be marked, waiting to die without knowing why. "I don't know," he said. "But I think the British are about to tell us." The diner appeared an hour and a half later, sitting alone next to an off-ramp surrounded by empty farmland. Its neon sign flickered in the afternoon light. Only 3 cars in the lot. One of them was a black sedan with rental plates. Dean parked at the far end and cut the engine. Last chance to call this off. "We're here. Doesn't mean we have to go in." Sam opened his door. "You can wait in the car if you want." "Not a chance." They walked across the gravel lot together. Inside the diner was exactly what Sam expected. Vinyl booths, checkered floor, smell of old grease and burned coffee. A man sat alone in the back corner booth, watching them approach. He was in his 40s, dark hair, expensive suit that looked out of place in the setting. He stood as they reached the table and extended a hand. "Arthur Ketch," he said. "Thank you for coming." Dean ignored the hand. Sam shook it briefly, then slid into the booth across from him. Dean stayed standing, arms crossed. "You said you had information," Sam said. Ketch sat back down and folded his hands on the table. "I do. But first tell me what you know about visual triggers." Sam felt Dean tense beside him. "What?" "Mimetic hazards. Cognitohazards, images that cause harm when perceived. Have you encountered anything like that in your work? We deal with curses, Dean said. Hexes, real things, not psychology experiments. This isn't psychology. It's a mechanism, a very old one. Ketch leaned forward slightly. 3 weeks ago, my organization recovered an entity from an abandoned American facility. During transport, there was an incident. Visual exposure. Since then, individuals connected to that exposure have been dying in sequence. Sam's mind was already racing. Visual exposure to what? That's the question we're still answering. But preliminary analysis suggests the entity operates on a specific rule. If you see its face, it will find you. Anywhere. It will reach you no matter the distance or obstacle. And when it does, it will not stop until you're dead. The diner felt very quiet suddenly. Dean moved to sit down, his expression shifting from skepticism to something harder. That's impossible, Sam said. So are most things you hunt, Mr. Winchester. Yet here we are. You're saying this thing is unstoppable. I'm saying it follows a very simple law. Cause and effect. Stimulus and response. You see it. It comes for you. That's the entirety of the mechanism. Then don't look at it. The problem is people already have. The exposure event was recorded, stored digitally, and before we realized the danger, that recording was accessed by multiple personnel. Sam felt the pieces sliding into place. The database. Yes. How many people saw it? Ketch's expression didn't change. Initially 4. But the file was copied, shared internally for analysis. We've identified 14 confirmed exposures so far. 10 are already dead. Dean leaned forward. And the other 4, we're attempting to locate them now. But Mr. Winchester, this is where your assistance becomes critical. Ketch pulled a thin folder from inside his jacket and placed it on the table. We need to prevent further exposure. The file still exists in fragmented copies across multiple systems. If it reaches the public internet, the death toll could be catastrophic. Sam stared at the folder. Why come to us? You've got resources, military contractors. Why ask hunters for help? Because this isn't a military problem. It's not even a conventional, supernatural problem. This is something outside normal frameworks. And that's your expertise, isn't it? Things that don't fit. Dean reached for the folder. Ketch's hand snapped down on top of it. Before you open that, Ketch said carefully, understand that it contains no visual information, only written analysis. But even descriptions can be dangerous. Once you know what to look for, you might see it by accident. In old photographs, historical records, random footage. The human mind is very good at pattern recognition, sometimes too good. You're saying knowledge itself is dangerous, Sam said. I'm saying this entity has survived for a very long time by remaining unseen. And now that we've seen it, we're paying the price. Dean pulled the folder free and opened it. Sam leaned over to read alongside him. The first page was a timeline. Dates, locations, names. The second page was a physical description written in clinical language that somehow made it worse. Humanoid. Approximately 2.4 meters tall. Severe malnourishment appearance. Pigmentation absent. Limbs disproportionate. Jaw capable of extreme extension. Sam's stomach went cold. Where is it now? He asked. Unknown. After the transport incident, we lost tracking. It's mobile, extremely fast when pursuing targets. And it doesn't stop. It doesn't rest. It simply is. Dean closed the folder and pushed it back. So you lost a monster people are dying because they saw it, and now you want us to clean up your mess. I want us to minimize casualties. By doing what exactly? Ketch met Dean's eyes. By finding everyone who is exposed and getting them to safety before the entity reaches them. And by destroying every copy of that image before anyone else can see it. Safety where? Sam said. You said it doesn't stop. We have facilities, reinforced containment. If we can gather the remaining exposed individuals and establish a proper barrier, it won't work. Sam was thinking through the implications. If this thing operates on a visual trigger, then containment won't stop it. It'll just delay it. Sooner or later it reaches the target. Then we eliminate the targets. Dean stood up. We're done here. Mr. Winchester, no. You don't get to eliminate people because you screwed up. We're hunters. We kill monsters, not victims. Ketch remained seated. Then what would you suggest? We find the thing, Dean said, and we kill it. Multiple attempts have been made. Firearms are ineffective. Incendiary measures slow it, but don't stop it. Conventional warfare is useless against something that doesn't feel pain and can't be reasoned with. Sam was still staring at the folder. You said it's been surviving for a long time. That means it's been contained before. Successfully. How? We don't know. The American records were incomplete. But the containment method appears to have been passive rather than active. It was simply kept in a sealed room with no visual access, no cameras, no windows, no observation. Then put it back in a sealed room. We would, if we could find it. But it's currently in pursuit mode, hunting remaining targets. And until those targets are eliminated by us or by it, the entity will not become docile again. The waitress approached with coffee. All three of them went silent until she left. Sam took a breath. This is what you know. An entity that kills anyone who sees its face. Can't be stopped by normal means. Currently hunting at least 4 people. Unknown location. No apparent weakness. That's correct. And you want our help to, what, find 4 people before this thing does? Among other things. We also need the digital files purged, all copies, every fragment. That requires technical expertise and access to systems we may not control anymore. Dean shook his head. This is insane. This is reality, Mr. Winchester. And right now 4 people are running out of time. Sam looked at his brother. Dean's jaw was tight, his hands balled into fists. This was the kind of case he hated. No clear enemy, no way to fight back. Just running and hoping you stayed ahead of something faster. We need to see those files, Sam said finally. Absolutely not. Then we can't help you. Ketch studied him. You understand that accessing those files means exposing yourself. Once you've seen the image, you become a target. We'll take that risk. Why? Because we don't work blind, ever. You want our help? You give us everything. No redactions, no protective lies. Everything. For a long moment, Ketch didn't respond. Then he stood and picked up the folder. There's a secure facility 40 miles from here. I'll take you there. You can review the full documentation. But Mr. Winchester, once you cross that line, there's no going back. You'll know exactly what's hunting these people. And it will know you. Sam stood as well. Then let's go find out what we're dealing with. Outside, the parking lot felt colder than it had before. Dean walked close beside him as they headed back to the Impala. This is a bad idea, Dean said under his breath. I know. We should walk away. We won't. Yeah, I know that too. They got in the car and followed Ketch's sedan back onto the highway. The sun was setting behind them, turning everything orange and red. Sam watched the road ahead and tried not to think about what waited at the end of it. Somewhere out there, 4 people were marked. 4 people who had no idea they were already dead. And somewhere behind them, something was closing the distance one step at a time. He thought about the scratches on the body in Toledo, the way they ran from shoulder to wrist, downward, like something had climbed down from above to reach him. Sam opened his laptop and started typing. Notes, questions, patterns. If this thing had a rule, then it had a weakness. Everything with a rule could be beaten. He just had to find it before the rule found him. The facility sat 40 miles outside Cleveland, hidden behind a chain-link fence and a sign that read, Midwest Industrial Storage. No guards at the gate, no visible security, just a keypad and a camera angled down at the entrance. Sam watched from the passenger's seat as the black sedan ahead punched in a code. The gate rolled open. Industrial storage, Dean muttered. Right. At least they're not subtle about lying. The Impala followed the sedan down a gravel drive that curved behind a row of prefab warehouses. At the end sat a concrete building with no windows and reinforced steel doors, the kind of place designed to keep things in, not out. Both vehicles stopped. Ketch emerged from the sedan and waited while Sam and Dean got out. Before we go inside, Ketch said, you'll need to leave all recording devices. Phones, watches, anything with a camera or microphone. Dean pulled his phone from his pocket and held it up. You think we're going to live stream your secret hideout? Protocol, non-negotiable. Sam handed over his phone without argument. Dean took longer, but eventually dropped his into the metal box Ketch held out. Weapons stay with you, Ketch added. We're not asking you to be defenseless, just discreet. They walked to the entrance. Ketch scanned a keycard, and the door opened with a pneumatic hiss. The interior was exactly what Sam expected. Concrete floors, fluorescent lighting, the hum of air filtration systems. They passed through 2 more security checkpoints before reaching an elevator that descended 3 levels. When the doors opened, they stepped into a corridor lined with offices. People in suits moved between rooms carrying tablets and files. Everyone looked busy. Everyone looked calm. This way, Ketch said. He led them to a conference room at the end of the hall. Inside, a woman in her 50s stood behind a table covered in documents. She wore a gray suit and had the kind of posture that suggested military background. Dr. Hess, Ketch said. This is Sam and Dean Winchester. Hess nodded once. Gentlemen, thank you for coming. Please sit. Sam took a chair across from her. Dean remained standing near the door, arms crossed. Your brother prefers to loom, Hess asked. He prefers to know what's happening, Dean said. Fair enough. Hess gestured at the documents. What's happening is containment. We have 4 remaining individuals who were exposed to the entity. We're working to locate and secure them before the entity reaches them. Secure them where? Sam asked. Facilities like this one. Reinforced structures with controlled access. We've also implemented a data purge protocol. Every system that stored the original recording is being isolated and wiped. And the entity itself, currently unaccounted for. But our tracking suggests it's in pursuit mode. Once the remaining targets are eliminated by us or by it, the entity should return to its passive state. Dean shifted his weight. You're talking about it like it's a machine. Because that's what it is, Mr. Winchester. Not a demon. Not a spirit. A biological mechanism with a single function: eliminate anyone who perceives its face. No malice. No intelligence. Just stimulus and response. Sam leaned forward. You're describing a reflex. Precisely. Which means it can be managed. Not destroyed, but contained. We've done this before with similar anomalies. Have you? Dean's voice had an edge now. Because from where I'm standing, you lost this thing 3 weeks ago, and people have been dying ever since. Hess met his eyes without flinching. We lost control of the transport, that's accurate. But we've regained operational capacity. The situation is contained. People are still dying. For now. But those deaths are finite. 14 exposures total, 10 deceased, 4 remaining. Once those 4 are secured or deceased, the entity will cease active pursuit. Sam felt something cold settle in his chest. The way she said it deceased like it was an administrative detail. You're planning to let them die, he said quietly. We're planning to prevent further exposure. If those 4 individuals can be saved, we'll attempt it. But our primary concern is ensuring this doesn't spread beyond the initial exposure event. What about the entity? Dean asked. Once it's passive, then what? We return it to containment. A sealed environment with no visual access. No cameras, no observation windows, no personnel interaction. It worked for decades before. It'll work again. Ketch had been silent until now. He stepped forward and placed a file on the table in front of Sam. These are the remaining targets, he said. 2 are former employees who accessed the recording during the analysis phase. 1 is a contractor who handled data recovery. The 4th is a field technician who reviewed transport logs. Sam opened the file. 4 faces stared back at him from personnel photos. 2 men, 2 women. All in their 30s or 40s. All looking like normal people who'd made the mistake of doing their jobs. Where are they now? He asked. Unknown. We've attempted contact but received no response. They may be in hiding. They may already be dead. Or they may not understand the danger they're in. So you want us to find them? And bring them here, yes. You have resources we don't. Contacts in the hunter community. Ways of locating people who don't want to be found. Dean pushed off from the wall. And what do we tell them when we find them? Come with us. You're bait for a monster. You tell them the truth, Hess said. That we have a secure location where they can wait out the threat. That we have protocols in place to protect them. Do you? We have the best containment measures available. That's not an answer. Hess stood and walked to a monitor mounted on the wall. She pressed a button and an image appeared, a floor plan of a reinforced cell. Thick walls, airlock entry, no windows. This is where we'll keep them, she said. Climate-controlled, supplied with food and water, monitored remotely. No visual contact with the outside. No way for the entity to perceive them once they're inside. Sam studied the schematic. It looked solid, professional. The kind of thing you'd design if you believed walls could stop a biological imperative. Has this been tested? He asked. Not with this specific entity, but the principles are sound. Principles aren't facts. No, but they're what we have. The room fell quiet. Sam could hear the ventilation system cycling. Somewhere down the hall, footsteps echoed and faded. Dean spoke first. What about the data you said you're wiping systems? How do you know you got it all? We're conducting a comprehensive audit, Ketch said. Every server that had access to the original recording. Every backup. Every redundant system. That's a lot of systems. It is. But we have the technical capacity. And if you miss one, Ketch hesitated. Just for a moment, but Sam caught it. "We won't," Ketch said. Dean looked at Sam. They'd worked together long enough that words weren't always necessary. Sam could read the skepticism in his brother's expression, the same skepticism he felt. "We'll need access to your audit findings," Sam said. "Every system you've checked, every file you've deleted." "That's classified," Hess said. "Then we're not helping." "Mr. Winchester, you came to us because you need help. We're offering it. But we don't work blind, and we don't trust systems that claim to be perfect." Sam stood. "You show us the data, we'll find your targets. Otherwise, we walk." Hess exchanged a look with Ketch. Some silent communication passed between them. After a long moment, she nodded. "Fine, but you view it here in this facility under supervision. Nothing leaves this building." "Agreed." She gestured toward the door. "Ketch will take you to the analysis room. You'll have 2 hours. After that, I expect a decision on whether you're with us or not." Sam and Dean followed Ketch back into the corridor. They walked in silence until they were far enough from the conference room that Hess wouldn't overhear. "You believe any of that?" Dean asked quietly. "I believe they think they're in control. That's not the same thing." "No, it's not." The analysis room was smaller than Sam expected. Just a desk, 2 chairs, and a computer terminal with no external ports. A woman in her 20s sat at the terminal typing rapidly. She looked up as they entered. "This is Sarah," Ketch said. "She's heading the data audit. Sarah, these are the Winchesters. They'll be reviewing your findings." Sarah nodded and stood. "I'll pull up the log." The screen filled with rows of file paths, timestamps, deletion confirmations. Sam leaned in to read while Dean stayed back watching Ketch. "We've processed 87 systems so far," Sarah said. "Primary servers, backup arrays, individual workstations. Every instance of the recording has been located and purged." "Every instance you know about," Sam said. "Every instance in our network, yes. What about external storage? Personal devices, cloud backups?" Sarah's fingers hovered over the keyboard. "We've accounted for internal systems. External vectors are more difficult to track." "How difficult?" "We've issued remote wipes for all personnel devices, phones, tablets, personal computers. But if someone transferred the file before the wipe executed..." She trailed off. Sam felt his stomach drop. "How many people had access before you locked it down?" "Initially 4, then 7 during the analysis phase. Then..." She scrolled through another document. "We expanded access temporarily to include technical support. Another 12 individuals. 23 people." "Yes, but most of them never actually viewed the file. They just had permissions." "Most of them." Sarah looked at Ketch. He stepped closer to the terminal. "We've confirmed 14 exposures," he said. "That's a hard number. Visual confirmation that these individuals saw the entity's face." "And the other 9?" Dean asked. "No evidence of exposure. They may have had access but never opened the file." "May have. We're operating on confirmed data, not speculation." Sam straightened. "You need to assume all 23 were exposed. Until you have proof otherwise, you treat every single person who touched that file as a target. That's not practical. Neither is underestimating this thing." Ketch's jaw tightened. "We're doing everything we can with the information available." "Then get better information." Before Ketch could respond, Sarah made a small sound. Sam turned to see her staring at the screen, her face pale. "What?" he asked. I just ran a secondary sweep, looking for fragment files, temporary cache, anything that might have survived the initial purge. Her voice had gone quiet. There's a hit. Where? External server, off network. Someone set up an automated backup 3 days after the transport incident, before we locked down the system. Ketch moved around the desk. Who? Can't tell from here. The backup was scheduled to run weekly. Last execution was... She checked the timestamp. 4 hours ago. The room went very still. Dean broke the silence. 4 hours ago, that file copied itself somewhere you don't control. Yes? And whoever set up that backup might not even know it's running. That's possible. Sam grabbed the back of Sarah's chair. Can you trace where it went? I can try. But if it's cloud storage or a private server or try. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. Lines of code scrolled past. Sam didn't understand most of it, but he understood the way her expression shifted from focused to worried. It's a commercial cloud service, she said finally. Encrypted. Multi-region distribution. Even if I had the credentials, it would take days to purge every instance. So it's out there, Dean said, floating around where anyone could stumble across it. Technically, yes. But without the specific file path and access credentials, the odds of someone randomly finding it are... What are the credentials? Sarah pulled up another window. Standard alphanumeric, 8 characters. The system generates them automatically on creation. Show me the username. She hesitated, then turned the monitor. Sam leaned in and felt something cold spread through his chest. The username was a default format first initial last name employee ID. But the name itself was familiar. He'd seen it on one of the personnel files in the conference room. One of the 4 remaining targets. That's Thomas Mercer, Sam said. The data recovery contractor. Ketch was already moving toward the door. We need to locate him immediately. He might not know, Sam said. If the backup was set up automatically as part of his job, then he's carrying around a copy of the one thing that will get him killed. And if he's accessed that storage in the last 4 hours? Ketch pulled out a phone, his not confiscated like theirs, and made a call. This is Ketch. I need a location on Thomas Mercer, now. He listened, face darkening. Confirmed. A pause. Understood. He lowered the phone. Mercer's dead. His body was found an hour ago in a parking garage in Columbus. Surveillance footage shows him accessing his cloud storage on his phone, approximately 90 minutes before death. Sam closed his eyes. Another one. Another person who'd done nothing wrong except look at the wrong thing. But that wasn't what made his blood run cold. If he accessed it on his phone, he said slowly, then the file synced locally. Yes. And if his phone survived, it didn't. Destroyed at the scene. Standard pattern. But the file's still in the cloud. Ketch met his eyes. Yes. Dean's voice was flat. So even though Mercer's dead, the thing he saw still exists. Still out there. Still waiting for someone else to open it. No one answered. Sam turned back to Sarah. Can you lock down that account freeze access? Not without the password. And even if I could, someone at the cloud service would need to manually intervene. That takes time. Days, maybe. We don't have days. I know. The analysis room felt smaller suddenly. Sam could feel the walls pressing in. Somewhere in a data center on a server farm, he'd never seen a file weighted. A single image that would kill anyone who saw it. and they had no way to delete it. He looked at Dean. His brother's expression was grim. "This is bigger than 4 people," Dean said. "Yeah. This is everyone." "Yeah." Sam turned to Ketch. "You need to contact the cloud service. Get them to take that storage offline, completely. No access, no backups, no redundancy. That will take authorization. Legal channels. It's not something we can do quietly. Then do it loudly. Because if that file spreads..." "I understand the implications, Mr. Winchester." "Do you..." "Because right now you've got a cognito hazard sitting in commercial cloud storage. Anyone with the right link could open it, could share it, could put it on social media, a forum, anywhere. And every single person who sees it dies." Ketch's knuckles were white where he gripped the phone. "We'll handle it." "How?" "We have contacts, resources. We'll coordinate with the service provider, and you'll be too slow." "Then what do you suggest?" Sam didn't have an answer. Dean shifted beside him, and Sam knew his brother was thinking the same thing he was. This wasn't containment. This was catastrophe waiting to happen. "We need to find the other 3 targets," Sam said finally, "before they access any backups, before they sync any files, before they do anything that might spread this further." "Agreed. And you need to assume your containment has already failed. Because from where I'm standing, it has." Ketch's face was stone. "I'll relay your concerns to Dr. Hess." "You do that." They left the analysis room in silence. The corridor felt longer on the way back. Sam counted doors as they passed. 12 offices. How many people in each one? How many of them had clearance? How many had seen things they shouldn't have? They reached the elevator. Ketch pressed the button, and they waited. "For what it's worth," Ketch said quietly. "You're right. This is bigger than we anticipated." "Then stop pretending you have it under control," Dean said. "We're trying to prevent panic. You're trying to prevent accountability." The elevator doors opened. They stepped inside. As the doors closed, Sam caught one last glimpse of the corridor. Clean, orderly, controlled. It looked like a place that had everything figured out. It looked like a trap. The first sign came through a hunter forum at 3 in the morning. Sam was still awake, sitting in a motel room outside Columbus, with his laptop open and coffee going cold beside him. Dean had crashed 2 hours ago, face down on the other bed, still wearing his boots. The forum notification was buried in spam, someone selling blessed ammunition, another asking about Wendigo patterns in Montana. But one post had a red flag tag from a moderator, urgent. Visual hazard. Sam clicked through. The post was short. Clinical. A hunter named Marcus Webb had gone dark after investigating a case in Pittsburgh. His last message to the forum had been a request for information on entities triggered by observation. Then nothing for 3 days. This morning, local hunters found his body in a warehouse. Severe trauma. No signs of struggle beyond the corpse itself. But that wasn't what made Sam's hands go cold. Webb had uploaded a file to the forum's secure server 6 hours before he died. A corrupted image file with a note attached. "If anyone recognizes this thing, message me. Don't open unless you have to." The moderator had deleted it immediately. Purged the cache. Banned Webb's account to prevent auto-syncing. But the download counter showed 3 hits before deletion. 3 people had seen it. Sam closed the laptop and sat in the dark. He could hear Dean breathing. Traffic outside. The hum of the motel's ice machine. 3 more. He picked up the burner phone they'd been using for BMOL contact and dialed Ketch's number. It rang 7 times before connecting. Winchester. Ketch's voice was flat, exhausted. I was about to call you. Webb's dead. A pause. We know. We've been tracking Hunter networks. The forum post was flagged in our system 4 minutes after it went live. Who were the 3 downloads? We're working on that. Forum uses anonymous routing. We have IP addresses, but they're bouncing through VPNs. How long to trace them? Could be hours. Could be never, if they're using proper security. Sam stood and walked to the window. The parking lot was empty except for their car. Somewhere in the country, 3 people had opened a file. Maybe they'd deleted it immediately. Maybe they'd stared at it, trying to understand what they were seeing. Maybe they were already marked. How did Webb get the image? Sam asked. We're not certain. Best guess is he accessed a cloud backup we didn't know existed. Or someone sent it to him thinking it was relevant to his case. Someone sent it. That's what we're afraid of. If people are sharing the image thinking it's just documentation, then it's already spreading beyond our ability to track. Ketch didn't respond. Sam could hear keyboard sounds in the background. Voices. The organized chaos of a control room trying to contain something that had already escaped. We need to lock down Hunter networks, Sam said. Every forum, every database, every communication channel. You have the resources. Do it. We're trying. But these networks are decentralized by design. No central authority. No way to force compliance. Then tell them the truth. That will cause panic. It'll cause awareness. Right now, people are opening files they think are safe. If we tell them, the information becomes the vector. Descriptions of the entity are almost as dangerous as images. Once you know what to look for, you might see it in old photographs, archived footage, historical records. Sam felt sick. So we can't warn them without potentially exposing more people. Correct. He pressed his forehead against the cold window glass. The logic was airtight and completely useless. They were trapped in a situation where the cure was the disease. Where's the entity now? He asked. Unknown. We lost tracking after the Columbus incident. It's mobile, fast, and it doesn't leave a trail we can follow until after someone dies. How many are dead now? Another pause. Longer this time. Confirmed 13. Suspected at least 6 more based on injury patterns and circumstantial evidence. But Winchester, that's just from known exposures. If the image has been copied, shared, backed up to systems we don't control, we could be looking at dozens or hundreds. We don't know. Dean stirred on the bed behind him. Sam lowered his voice. What about the other 3 targets from your list? 1 is dead. Found this morning in Detroit. The other 2 have gone to ground. No phone activity, no credit cards, no digital footprint. Either they're smart enough to disappear or they're already dead. And we just haven't found the bodies. You need to pull back your containment teams, Sam said. Stop trying to bring people in. Just focus on killing the spread. We can't just abandon. They're already dead, Ketch. Everyone who saw it. You know that. The entity doesn't stop. It doesn't sleep. It just keeps coming until the target is eliminated. Bringing them to a facility won't save them. It'll just give you a front row seat to watching them die. The line went quiet. Sam could picture Ketch standing in some underground command center staring at screens full of data that all pointed to the same conclusion. What do you suggest? Ketch asked finally. Find every copy of that image and destroy it. Not contain, destroy. Burn the servers, corrupt the backups, salt the earth, because every day that file exists is another day someone could see it. We're doing that. Do it faster. Sam ended the call. Dean was sitting up now, watching him. How bad die? Worse than we thought. Scale of 1 to apocalypse. Somewhere in the middle and climbing. Dean stood and grabbed his jacket. Then we need to move. Move where? Wherever this thing is going next. If we can't stop it, maybe we can get ahead of it. Warn people. Clear zones. Something. Sam wanted to tell him it wouldn't work. That you couldn't outrun a mechanism. But Dean needed to do something, and sitting in a motel watching numbers climb wasn't something either of them could stomach. Cleveland, Sam said. There's a hunter safe house there. If Webb uploaded that file, other hunters might have copies. We need to sweep their systems before anyone else opens it. They packed in 3 minutes and hit the road. The drive took 40 minutes. Dawn was breaking behind them, turning the sky the color of old bruises. Dean drove fast, both hands on the wheel, jaw tight. You think we can actually stop this? He asked. Sam didn't answer right away. He was thinking about the math. 14 confirmed exposures, at least 6 more suspected, 3 from the forum. How many others were out there? How many copies existed in places they couldn't see? I think we can slow it down, he said finally. That's not the same thing. No, it's not. The safe house was a 2-story building in a neighborhood that had seen better decades. Barred windows, reinforced door, the kind of place hunters used when they needed to vanish for a while. Sam knocked 3 times, waited, then knocked twice more. The code was old, but still recognized. The door opened a crack. A woman in her 40s peered out, hand resting on something behind the door frame. Winchester. Yeah. We need to come in. She studied them for a moment, then opened the door wider. Move fast. We don't advertise. Inside the safe house looked exactly like every other hunter crash pad Sam had seen. Weapons on the walls, salt lines at every threshold, a table covered in maps and papers. 3 other hunters sat around the table, all of them looking up as Sam and Dean entered. Anyone here know Marcus Webb? Sam asked. The woman who'd let them in nodded. He was supposed to check in yesterday. Didn't. He's dead. Killed by something that hunts anyone who sees its face. Before he died, he uploaded an image file to the hunter forum. The room went very still. We deleted it, one of the hunters said. A younger man with a scarred jaw. Saw the moderator warning and didn't even look at it. Did Webb send anyone here a copy? Dean asked. Email, text, anything? No. But he mentioned he was working on something weird. Said he'd found footage from an old government facility. Thought it might be related to the men of letters. Sam's stomach dropped. Did he say where the footage came from? Some kind of transport incident. British operation. He was trying to identify the creature in the video. And he showed you this video? No, he just described it. Said it looked humanoid, but wrong. Pale, really tall. Wouldn't show us because the file was corrupted. Sam and Dean exchanged a look. We need every device Webb had access to, Sam said. Computer, phone, external drives, everything. And we need to know if he backed up to cloud storage. The woman crossed her arms. You want to tell us what's really going on? There's an entity. If you see its face in person, in a photo, in a video, it will find you. Doesn't matter where you are or how you hide. It will reach you and it will kill you. The only way to survive is to never see it in the first place. That's impossible. That's what we thought too. One of the hunters pushed back from the table. So Webb died because he looked at a picture? Yes. And everyone who downloaded that file from the forum is already dead. They just don't know it yet. The younger hunter with a scarred jaw stood. I need to make some calls. To who? Dean asked. Friends, people who might have seen Webb's post before it was deleted. Don't describe the entity. Don't tell them what to look for. Just tell them to delete any files they got from Webb without opening them. That might not be enough. It's all we've got. The hunter left the room. Sam could hear him on the phone in the next room, voice low and urgent. The woman looked at Sam. How do we kill it? You don't. Everything dies. Not this. Best case scenario, you put it back in containment. Seal it somewhere it can't be seen. No cameras, no windows, no observation. It worked before. And if that's not possible? Sam didn't have an answer for that. Dean was already moving toward the back of the house where Webb's gear was stored. Sam followed. They found his laptop in a duffel bag along with 2 external hard drives and a tablet. Don't turn them on, Sam said. Just bag everything. We'll have Ketch's people do a remote wipe. What if the image is on there? Then we destroy the drives. Physically, no recovery. They carried the equipment back to the main room. The hunters were all on their phones now, spreading the word through channels Sam couldn't track. He hoped it would be enough. He knew it wouldn't. His own phone buzzed. A text from Ketch, call me now. Sam stepped outside and dialed. Ketch answered on the first ring. We have a problem. What else is new? The forum wasn't the only breach. We've identified 12 separate uploads across different platforms in the last 6 hours. Dark web boards, encrypted chats, file-sharing networks. Someone's distributing the image. Sam felt the world tilt. Who? We don't know. The uploads are automated, scripted, like someone set up a dead man's switch before they died. Webb. That's our assumption. He thought he was documenting evidence. Standard hunter protocol. Share everything. Let the network figure it out. How many downloads? At least 40, could be more. The platforms don't keep accurate logs. 40 people, 40 new targets. And that was just in 6 hours. Can you take down the platforms? Sam asked. We're trying, but these are decentralized systems. Take down one node and the data moves to another. It's like fighting smoke. Then we need to change strategies. To what? Sam looked back at the safe house. Through the window, he could see Dean talking to the hunters, organizing them, turning panic into action. It was what Dean did. But it wouldn't be enough. Not anymore. We stopped trying to kill the spread, yes, Sam said. We shift focus to containment. That's what we've been doing? No. You've been trying to contain people. I'm talking about containing the entity itself. Find it, track it, drive it somewhere we can seal it. How? I don't know yet. But trying to delete every copy of that image is a losing fight. The file's already in too many places. We need to attack the mechanism, not the trigger. Ketch was quiet for a moment. That's suicide. Maybe. But it's better than watching the body count climb while we chase ghosts through data centers. You're talking about direct engagement with something that can't be killed. I'm talking about being hunters instead of IT support. Another pause. Then, I'll bring it to Hess. But Winchester, if we do this, if we go after the entity directly, we need to accept that casualties are inevitable. Casualties are already inevitable. At least this way, they'll mean something. Sam ended the call and went back inside. Dean met him at the door. What's the plan? We find it. Find what? The thing how? It's hunting targets in sequence. If we can identify the next target before it does, we can use them as bait. That's cold. You have a better idea. Dean didn't. Sam knew he wouldn't, because there were no good ideas left. Just bad ones and worse ones. The scarred hunter came back from the other room. I reached 6 people. 4 hadn't seen the post. 2 had downloaded the file. Did they open it? 1 did. The others too scared to check. Tell them to destroy their devices. Now. Don't delete the file, destroy the hardware. Smash the drives. Burn them if they have to. And the one who opened it? Sam felt something hollow settle in his chest. Tell them to get somewhere isolated, away from family, away from crowds, because when it comes, it won't care who's in the way. The hunter's face went pale. That's a death sentence. Yes. We don't abandon our own. You're not abandoning them. You're protecting everyone around them. This thing doesn't negotiate. It doesn't stop. It just executes. And anyone near the target when it arrives will die too. The room had gone quiet again. All the hunters were listening now. Sam could see the calculations happening behind their eyes, the realization spreading. This wasn't a hunt. This was triage. Dean's phone rang. He answered, listened, then looked at Sam. That was Bobby's network. Someone in Sioux Falls just went dark, found dead in their house 20 minutes ago. Same injury pattern. Did they have any connection to Webb? They were on the forum. Moderator said they accessed Webb's post before it was deleted. So that was 4 of the 3 downloads accounted for, which meant the count was already wrong. More people had seen it than they'd tracked. Sam walked back outside into the early morning cold. The sun was up now, turning everything harsh and overexposed. He could hear birds, traffic, the ordinary sounds of a world that had no idea what was spreading through its digital veins. Somewhere someone was opening a file, looking at an image, triggering a mechanism that would kill them in hours or days. And there was nothing Sam could do to stop it. Dean came out and stood beside him. We're not going to win this, are we? Dean said quietly. Sam thought about lying, about saying they'd find a way. But they'd been doing this too long for comfortable lies. Not by fighting it head on, no. Then what do we do? Sam pulled out his phone and opened his contacts. Found the number for the men of Letter's bunker. They'd avoided going there so far, kept it as a last resort. But last resorts were all they had left. We go home, Sam said, and we figure out how to seal something that shouldn't exist. Dean nodded once. Then let's move. They got in the car and drove. Behind them, hunters were making calls, spreading warnings, trying to build a firewall made of awareness and fear. It wouldn't be enough. Sam knew that. But it was all they had. The men of Letters, bunker sat under 40 feet of Kansas prairie, invisible from above, warded against every malevolent force documented in 3 centuries of occult research. Sam descended the metal stairs with Dean close behind their footsteps, echoing off concrete walls. The overhead lights came on automatically, responding to motion sensors that had been silent for weeks. Home sweet home, Dean said, but there was no warmth in his voice. Sam moved through the war room, past the table where they'd planned 100 hunts, past the shelves of lore they'd rebuilt from ash and memory. Everything looked exactly as they'd left it. Clean, ordered, safe. He hated how much he needed that to be true. Ketch arrived 30 minutes later with 2 technicians and a van full of equipment. Sam met them at the entrance, blocking the stairs. Before you bring anything inside, Sam said, we establish rules. I'm listening. No recording devices, no reflective surfaces beyond what's already here, no adjustments to the existing wards. This is our home. Your guests. Ketch studied him for a moment. Agreed. But we need to set up a secure communication link to our operations center. That requires some installation. Landline only, hardwired. No wireless, no cellular, no network access that could be compromised. That's going to limit our effectiveness. It's going to keep us alive. Ketch nodded to his technicians. They began unloading crates of equipment, moving carefully, speaking in low voices. Sam watched every item that came through the door. Phones went into a lead-lined box in the entrance alcove. Tablets, cameras, anything with a lens confiscated and stored. Dean joined him at the top of the stairs. You really think this is going to work? I think if anywhere can keep us off the board, it's here. The board? The thing doesn't hunt randomly. It has a list. Everyone who saw it. If we're not on that list, and we stay sealed, it has no reason to come here. And the people who are on the list... Sam didn't answer. They both knew those people were corpses that hadn't stopped breathing yet. The technicians finished setting up a hardline connection in the library. One of them, a man in his 30s with careful hands and tired eyes, tested the line and gave Ketch a thumbs up. We're live, he said. Encrypted trunk line. No recording, no packet inspection, just voice. Good. Ketch lifted the receiver and dialed. After a moment, Ketch here. We've established the secure site. Beginning containment protocol now. He listened, nodded, hung up. Hess wants a status update every 6 hours, he said. She's pulling all field teams back to facilities. We're going into full defensive posture. Smart, Sam said. Stop trying to fight smoke and start building walls. That's one way to describe it. Dean had moved to the map table, spreading out papers and photographs. Evidence they'd gathered over the past 72 hours. 37 confirmed deaths. At least twice that many suspected. The numbers kept growing. We need to talk about next steps, Dean said. Sam and Ketch joined him at the table. The way I see it, Dean continued, we have 2 options. 1, sit here and wait for the body count to stop climbing. 2, find the thing and put it down. Option 2 is suicide, Ketch said. Maybe, but at least it's doing something. Sam shook his head. We've been through this. You can't kill it. Multiple attempts have been made. Firearms don't work. Fire doesn't work. Even if you could destroy the body, that doesn't address the core problem. Which is, the image is still out there. Destroy 1 copy and 3 more pop up. We're fighting information, not flesh. Dean's jaw tightened. So we do nothing. We do what works. Containment, isolation. We make it so the thing has nowhere to go, no targets to reach, and eventually it goes dormant. How long is eventually? As long as it takes. That could be weeks, months. And in the meantime, people keep dying. Yes, they do. The room fell silent. One of the technicians coughed quietly and made himself busy checking cable connections. Ketch cleared his throat. There is a third option. One Hess has been considering. Both brothers turned to him. We use bait, Ketch said. We identify someone who's been exposed but isn't dead yet. Bring them here. When the entity arrives, we seal it in a containment cell. That's disgusting, Dean said flatly. That's practical. 1 death to potentially end the threat. Or 1 death for nothing if your containment fails. Our containment won't fail. Sam was already shaking his head. No, We're not using people as bait. And even if we were, your plan has a fatal flaw, which is the entity doesn't stop when it reaches the target. It continues until the target is eliminated. If we seal someone in a cell with that thing, we're just creating a death chamber. And once the target's dead, the entity resets, becomes passive. We'd have to keep it sealed indefinitely. That's the idea. And what happens when someone accidentally sees it through a window? A crack in the door, a reflection. We've just created our own exposure event. Ketch's expression darkened. Then what do you suggest? I suggest we stop thinking like hunters and start thinking like archivists. This thing existed for years in containment before your organization pulled it out. That means containment is possible. We need to understand how it was done originally. The records were incomplete. Then we find new records. The men of letters kept documentation on everything. If this thing was contained once, there's a paper trail. Dean pushed away from the table. Great. So while we're reading dusty books, 40 more people die. You have a better idea that doesn't involve getting yourself killed. Maybe getting myself killed is the point. Sam felt something cold in his chest. Don't. Why not? If this thing only kills specific targets, and I make myself a target, I can draw it somewhere controlled. Somewhere we can trap it. By looking at the image. Yeah. That's not bravery, Dean. That's suicide with extra steps. It's a plan. It's a stupid plan. You got a smart one. Before Sam could answer, the overhead lights flickered. Just for a second. Barely noticeable. Everyone froze. That's not normal, one of the technicians said quietly. Sam moved to the wall panel that controlled the bunker's systems. The readouts showed normal power draw, normal generator function. But the lights had definitely flickered. Could be a surge, Ketch said. Old wiring. The bunker's wiring is shielded and redundant. It doesn't surge. Dean was already moving toward the armory. Something's wrong. Sam followed, pulling out his phone, then remembered it was locked in the box upstairs. No cameras. No screens. No way to accidentally trigger anything. They reached the armory and Dean started pulling weapons. Silver bullets, iron rounds, blessed shells. The full arsenal of things that killed monsters. This won't help, Sam said. Makes me feel better. A sound echoed from somewhere deeper in the bunker. Distant, metallic. Like something dragging across concrete. Ketch had his own weapon out now, some kind of tactical pistol with a suppressor. Where's that coming from? Could be the heating system, Sam said. But he didn't believe it. The sound came again, closer. Dean, Sam said quietly, did you look at any images in the last 72 hours? Anything that could have... No, nothing. I've been careful. Me too. They looked at Ketch. He shook his head. I haven't accessed any files since the Columbus facility. Everything I've reviewed has been text-only reports. The lights flickered again. This time they stayed dim for 3 seconds before returning to full brightness. Someone's in here, Dean said. That's impossible. We cleared the bunker before we let anyone in. It was empty. Then explain the sounds. Sam couldn't. The bunker was warded against intrusion. Demons couldn't enter. Spirits couldn't manifest. Anything that meant harm was repelled at the threshold. Unless it didn't mean harm. Unless it was just following a rule. He ran to the library where the technicians were still working. Did either of you access any files? Open any images? Look at anything from the case? The careful man with tired eyes shook his head. We were briefed not to. All we've done is set up the hard line. The other technician, a woman with dark hair pulled back, looked pale. I might have. Everyone turned to her. When? Sam asked. Before we left the Cleveland facility. There was a file in the system marked Field Identification. I thought it was just documentation of the entity's appearance. I opened it for half a second, saw something that looked wrong, and closed it immediately. How long ago? 6 hours. Maybe 7. The math hit Sam like a physical blow. 6 hours. That meant the entity had been in pursuit for 6 hours. Tracking her through Cleveland, then on the road, and now... We need to get her out of the bunker, Sam said. No, Ketch said sharply. If we open the door now, we compromise the seal. If we keep her in here, we bring the threat inside. The bunker is warded. It'll hold. Against demons, against spirits, not against this. The woman was backing toward the wall, eyes wide. I didn't mean to. I thought... The sound of metal dragging on concrete came again. Much closer now, from the direction of the archives. How did it get in? Dean demanded. Sam was already moving. It walked in, through the front door, because it's not evil. It's not malicious. The wards don't recognize it as a threat. He reached the war room, just as something emerged from the hallway that led to the archives. It was tall. Too tall. Moving with a gait that looked almost apologetic. Its hands covered its face, fingers pressed tight against skin that had no color at all. And it was making a sound. Low and constant. Not quite breathing. Not quite crying. Nobody look at it, Sam said. Turn around, now. Dean had already spun away facing the wall. Ketch and the other technician did the same. But the woman, the one who'd opened the file, stood frozen in place. I saw you, she whispered. I already saw you. The thing stopped moving. Its hand slowly lowered from its face. Don't look at it, Sam shouted. But it was too late. The woman was staring directly at it now, and her expression had gone from fear to something worse. Recognition. The thing made a sound. High, thin, wrong. Then it moved. Sam grabbed Dean and pulled him back toward the library. Behind them, the woman screamed once. Then the sound cut off in a way that made Sam's blood turn to ice. Seal the library, Ketch was shouting. Get the door closed. But there was no door. The library opened directly onto the war room. There was nowhere to hide, nowhere to seal. The thing finished with the woman in under 10 seconds. Sam didn't look back. Didn't need to. The sounds told him everything. Then silence. Sam risked a glance over his shoulder. The thing was crouched over the body, hands covering its face again, making that low sound like damaged breathing. It didn't look at them, didn't acknowledge them, just sat there unmoving. It's done, Sam said quietly. Its target's eliminated. It's resetting. Dean was pressed against the wall, knuckles white on his gun. So what do we do now? Nothing. We don't move. We don't engage. We wait for it to leave. Leave how the door's sealed. It'll find a way. It always does. They waited. Minutes passed. The thing remained motionless. Finally, it stood. Still covering its face, it moved back toward the hallway it had come from, walking with that same apologetic gait. Within seconds, it had vanished into the depths of the bunker. Ketch let out a breath. It's in the archives now. We can seal that section, trap it. No, Sam said. It's not trapped. It's leaving. Give it time. How? I don't know, but it will. They waited another 10 minutes. Then Sam carefully made his way to the archives. The section was empty, no sign of the entity, just rows of shelves and the smell of old paper. "It's gone," he called back. Dean joined him, gun still drawn. Wherever it was before, back to wandering, back to passive state. Until someone else sees it. Yeah. They returned to the war room. The woman's body lay near the map table. Sam forced himself to look at the damage, to catalog it clinically. Multiple impact points. Severe trauma. The same pattern they'd seen 37 times before. The other technician, the careful man, was sitting on the floor, head in his hands. "I worked with her for 3 years," he said quietly. "She just wanted to help." No one had an answer for that. Ketch was on the hard line, speaking in clipped tones to whoever was on the other end. After a moment, he hung up and turned to Sam. "Hess is pulling all personnel back to surface facilities. The deep bunkers are being sealed. No one goes underground until we understand why the wards failed." "The wards didn't fail," Sam said. "They worked exactly as designed. They kept out evil. This thing isn't evil. It's just a fact." "Then what do we do?" Sam looked around the war room, the safest place on Earth. The vault that had protected them from everything hell and heaven could throw at them, and it hadn't mattered. "We accept that there is no safe place," he said. "Not from this. The bunker can't protect us. The wards can't protect us. Distance can't protect us. The only protection is never seeing it in the first place. And if you already have—" Sam didn't answer. He was thinking about the technician, about Webb, about all the people who'd opened a file thinking they were doing their job, doing the right thing. They were all dead. They just didn't know when yet. Dean set his gun down on the table. "So what now?" "Now we stop trying to hide from it, and we start figuring out how to make it stop hunting. You just said we can't kill it. We can't. But maybe we don't have to. Maybe we just need to give it what it wants. Which is—" Sam picked up one of the papers from the table. A copy of the original containment document. Incomplete, redacted, but with enough information to suggest a possibility. "Privacy," he said. "It doesn't want to be seen. That's the whole mechanism. Someone sees it, it eliminates them. The cycle continues. But what if we could convince it that no one will ever see it again?" Ketch crossed his arms. "You're talking about negotiating with it." "I'm talking about giving it what it had before. Total isolation. No observation, no documentation, no record it exists." "That's impossible. The image is already distributed." "Then we make it possible. We destroy every copy. We make it so the thing can return to obscurity." Dean shook his head. "That's dozens of files across 100 systems. You said yourself it's like fighting smoke." "I know. But it's the only option that doesn't end with everyone who's seen it dead. Everyone who's seen it is already dead, Sam. We're just deciding how long they get to breathe first." The words hung in the air. True and terrible. Sam looked at the body on the floor, at the careful man still sitting with his head in his hands, at Dean who looked more tired than Sam had ever seen him. "Then we buy them time," Sam said finally, "however much we can, and we hope it's enough." No one argued. There was nothing left to argue about. The safest place on Earth hadn't been safe at all, and they were running out of places to run. Castiel stood in the empty field outside Lebanon, watching the sunrise paint the horizon in shades of copper and ash. He'd left the bunker 2 hours ago after the woman's body had been removed and the blood cleaned from the war room floor. He'd told Sam he needed to investigate. That was true, but not complete. What he needed was to understand why heaven hadn't warned them. Angels saw evil. They perceived sin. They tracked corruption through the fabric of creations, like bloodhounds following a scent. For 3 years now, Castiel had been part of that network, however fractured it had become. He knew how information flowed between the garrison, knew how threats were flagged, assessed, contained. This should have been flagged. 37 deaths. 40, 50. The numbers kept climbing, and heaven had been silent. Castiel closed his eyes and extended his awareness upward. Not prayer angels didn't pray, but perception. The ability to sense the presence of his brothers and sisters, to feel the pulse of divine attention on the world below. He found nothing. Not absence, not silence, just nothing. As if the deaths didn't exist in the celestial record. As if heaven looked directly at the carnage and saw empty space. He opened his eyes and pulled out the phone Sam had given him. The screen showed a text message with a single attached document, a written description of the entity. No images, no visual reference, just clinical language describing proportions, behavior mechanism. Castiel had read it 3 times. Each time the words felt like they were sliding off his mind, refusing to take root. The entity operated on a rule. Visual perception triggered pursuit. Pursuit ended in elimination. Then reset. Simple. Mechanical. Devoid of intent. He should be able to see that in the spiritual architecture. Angels perceived cause and effect. They saw the threads of fate and choice woven through every action. Murder left a mark. Violence left a stain. But when Castiel looked at the deaths, he saw only endings. Clean cuts. No malice, no rage, no sin. His phone rang. Dean. Yeah, Castiel answered. Where are you? Outside, investigating. Find anything? Castiel looked at the empty field. Dawn was almost complete now. Ordinary morning, ordinary light. The world continuing as if nothing was wrong. No, he said, nothing. Cass, we need you back here. Sam's got a plan and it's bad. Really bad. I need you to talk him out of it. What kind of plan? The kind where he volunteers to be bait. Says if we can lure the thing to a controlled location. That won't work. I know that. You know that. Sam knows that. But he's desperate, and when Sam gets desperate, he gets stupid. Castiel closed his eyes again. I'll be there soon. He ended the call and stood motionless for another moment. Then he did something he hadn't done in months. He reached out not just to sense heaven, but to call it. The response came faster than he expected. Not a voice, not a presence, just a shift in attention. Something noticing him. I need guidance, Castiel said aloud. There's an entity killing humans. Dozens of them. It operates outside normal patterns. I can't perceive it as evil. I can't trace its spiritual signature. I need to know if heaven sees this threat. Silence. Then finally a response. Not words. Just awareness. And within that awareness, a message that felt like ice in his vessel's chest. Not within jurisdiction. Castiel opened his eyes. Explain. The entity does not sin. It does not choose. It executes function. Heaven does not intervene in function. It's killing humans. Humans trigger the mechanism. The entity responds. This is cause and effect, not evil. People are dying. People die. That is their nature. Heaven grieves. But grief is not grounds for intervention. The connection faded before Castiel could respond. He stood in the empty field and felt something he'd only experienced once before, when he'd first rebelled, when he'd first chosen humans over orders. The realization that Heaven's perspective was not wrong, but insufficient. Heaven couldn't help, because Heaven didn't recognize the problem as a problem. Castiel returned to the bunker to find organized chaos. Sam had spread maps across the war room table marking locations with red pins. Dean was loading weapons that wouldn't help. Ketch was on the hard line, speaking in tense monosyllables. "We've lost containment entirely," Ketch was saying. "The image is on dark web forums now. Anonymous file hosting, encrypted boards. We're seeing download spikes across 3 continents." He listened, then hung up without saying goodbye. 3 more confirmed deaths in the last hour, he said. London, Berlin, Tokyo. This thing isn't bound by geography anymore. It never was, Sam said without looking up from his maps. Geography doesn't matter when the trigger is information. Dean saw Castiel and immediately moved to intercept him. "Talk to him, please." Castiel approached the table. Sam had marked potential containment sites, abandoned facilities, remote locations, places where they might theoretically seal the entity if they could lure it there. "This won't work," Castiel said. Sam finally looked up. "You have a better idea?" "No. But sacrificing yourself won't change the outcome." "I'm not talking about sacrifice. I'm talking about using myself as bait to draw it somewhere we can observe its behavior. Learn its limitations. Find a weakness. It doesn't have weaknesses. It has a function. Everything has weaknesses. Not this. Not in the way you're thinking." Castiel moved closer. "I contacted Heaven, asked for guidance." The room went quiet. "What did they say?" Sam asked. "They said it's not within their jurisdiction. The entity doesn't sin, doesn't choose. Therefore, Heaven doesn't intervene." That's insane. That's consistency. Heaven operates on moral absolutes. This thing exists outside those absolutes. Dean threw down the magazine he'd been loading. "So Heaven's just going to let people die?" "Heaven grieves. But grief isn't action. That's a bullshit answer, and you know it." Castiel met his eyes. "Yes, it is." The admission hung in the air. Dean looked like he wanted to throw something else, then just deflated. "So that's it," he said. "Heaven checks out. We're on our own." "We've been on our own since this started," Sam said quietly. "Heaven didn't help with the Leviathans. They didn't help with Amara. They help when the rules are clear. This isn't clear. Then we make it clear. We force them to see. You can't force Heaven to see what it's not designed to perceive." A new voice spoke from the doorway. Everyone turned to see a man in an expensive suit standing there, hands in his pockets, expression amused. "Crowley," Dean said flatly. The King of Hell walked into the room like he owned it. Winchester, feathers, and British person I don't care about. Lovely reunion." "What do you want?" Sam asked. "Same thing you want. To stop a plague before it kills all my customers. Dead humans are bad for business. Can't possess corpses, can't make deals with ashes. This thing is cutting into my quarterly projections." "So you're here to help?" "I'm here to offer a business proposition. You need the entity neutralized. I need it neutralized. Let's discuss terms." Ketch had his weapon halfway out. Castiel raised a hand. "Let him speak." Crowley smiled. "Thank you, Angel. See, I've been doing my homework. This creature hunts on visual trigger. which means it can be weaponized. Point it at an enemy, let nature take its course. Very efficient, very clean.
Bus.
You tried that already? Sam said. Didn't work. Oh, we had some initial setbacks. Lost 3 good demons, 4 mediocre ones. But we learned something valuable. This thing doesn't care about vessels. It kills the human demon, hitches a ride back to hell. Perfect survival rate for my kind. Get to the point, Dean said. The point is, hell can use this, but only if we control the spread. So I'm proposing a partnership. You help me contain the information vector, I help you neutralize exposed targets before they become collateral damage. Win-win. You want us to help you kill people. I want us to kill already dead people slightly faster. They're corpses walking Winchester. You know it. I know it. The only question is whether they take others with them when they go. Sam's hands had curled into fists. No. Think about it rationally. No. We're not executing people for hell's convenience. Crowley sighed. And this is why humans lose. You're so attached to your principles you can't see pragmatism when it's wearing a name tag. He looked at Castiel. Help me out here, Angel. Tell them I'm right. You're not wrong, Castiel said. But you're not right either. That's a non-answer. It's the only answer. Your proposal treats humans as resources. Sam and Dean won't accept that. I won't accept that. Even though it's the logical solution, logic without compassion is just cruelty with paperwork. Crowley studied him for a moment, then shrugged. Fine. Be noble. Be heroes. Watch the body count climb while you debate ethics. He turned toward the door. But when you finally realize I was right, don't come crawling. Hell doesn't do second chances. He vanished before anyone could respond. The silence that followed was heavier than before. He's not wrong about the numbers, Ketch said quietly. Every hour we delay, more people die. We're not killing people, Dean said, even to save others. Especially then. Sam had returned to his maps, but his hands weren't moving. Just resting on the table fingers, spread like he was trying to hold on to something that kept slipping through. Cass, he said without looking up. When you contacted Heaven, did they say anything else? Anything about stopping it? No. Only that it wasn't their concern. What about Death? Could we talk to him, get him to intervene? Castiel shook his head. Death doesn't intervene in mechanisms. He reaps. That's his function. This thing, it's already part of the natural order in a way Death would recognize. A condition of existence, not a violation of it. So, we really are alone. Yes. Sam finally looked up. His eyes were red-rimmed, exhausted. Then we need to accept what we can't do and focus on what we can. Which is, Dean asked, we can't kill it. We can't contain it permanently. We can't stop people from seeing the image. But we can make sure no one else wants to see it. We can make the idea of looking so terrifying that curiosity dies before exposure. You're talking about psychological warfare. I'm talking about saving lives. We flood every channel we can reach with warnings. Make it so toxic, so forbidden, that even thinking about looking becomes taboo. That might work for civilians, Ketch said. But researchers, skeptics, people who think they're immune, we deal with them individually, track potential exposures, intervene before they can open files. That's impossible. We don't have the resources. Then we get resources. We call in every favor, every hunter, every contact. We build a network and we hold the line. Dean was shaking his head. That's not a solution. That's just Slow motion triage. It's buying time. For what? For something better. A real answer. A way to seal this thing permanently. And if there isn't one? Sam didn't answer. Castiel understood the silence. He'd felt the same thing standing in that empty field, waiting for heaven to care. The slow realization that sometimes there wasn't a solution. Sometimes there was only damage control. I'll help, Castiel said. Whatever you need. Even if it means going against heaven's non-intervention. Heaven already chose. I choose differently. Sam nodded once. Thank you. They worked through the afternoon, building lists, making calls, organizing the hunters who were still alive and willing to help into a network of early warning. It felt like building a dam with sandbags while watching the flood crest. As evening approached, Castiel found himself back outside. Same field, same empty horizon, but darker now. The stars were coming out. He thought about heaven's response, not within jurisdiction. 3 words that meant we see the problem and choose to look away. He thought about Crowley's offer. Pragmatic, ruthless, effective. Everything that felt wrong, but sounded right. He thought about Sam and Dean inside the bunker, trying to fight information with information, trying to hold back a tide with their bare hands. And he thought about the woman who died in the war room, who'd opened a file thinking she was helping, who died for doing her job. There was no justice in that. No divine plan, no greater purpose, just cause and effect, stimulus and response, a mechanism that killed because that's what it was designed to do. Heaven didn't intervene in mechanisms, but Castiel had stopped following heaven's rules a long time ago. He pulled out his phone and made a call, not to another angel, not to heaven's network, but to someone who'd once told him that free will meant making choices even when all the choices were bad. Bobby Batnamba, he said when the line connected. I need your help, and I need you to trust me when I say what I'm about to ask is necessary. He explained. Bobby listened. When Castiel finished, Bobby was quiet for a long moment. That's a hell of a thing you're proposing, Bobby said finally. Yes. You sure there's no other way? No, but I don't see one. Another pause. Then, all right, I'll make the calls, get the word out. But Cass, if this goes wrong, if this makes things worse, then I'll accept responsibility. That's what I'm afraid of. The call ended. Castiel stood in the dark field and wondered if he'd just made the right choice or damned himself again. He wasn't sure. He wasn't sure it mattered. What mattered was that heaven had looked away. Hell had offered cruelty, and humanity was left holding the pieces of something it never should have seen. Castiel walked back toward the bunker. Inside, Sam and Dean would be working, planning, fighting, refusing to give up even when giving up was the rational choice. That was why he'd fallen in the first place. Not for defiance, but for that stubborn, beautiful refusal to accept that some problems were unsolvable. Heaven said the entity wasn't their jurisdiction. Fine. Then it was his. The whiteboard in the war room showed numbers in red marker. Confirmed exposures 73, estimated untracked 140 to 200. Average pursuit time 6 to 48 hours. Confirmed deaths 58. Probable deaths in next 24 hours 15 to 30. Sam stared at the board. The numbers hadn't changed in the last hour because he'd stopped updating them. Updating meant acknowledging that the count was climbing faster than he could write. Dean sat at the table with a half-empty bottle of whiskey and 3 glasses. One for him, one for Sam, one for Castiel, who didn't drink, but Dean had poured it anyway. We need to make a call, Dean said. Sam didn't turn from the board. I know. I mean now. Not in an hour, not tomorrow. People are dying while we stand here doing math. The math matters. The math says we've already lost. Sam finally turned. The math says we need to choose how we lose. That's not the same thing. Castiel stood near the doorway, watching both of them. He hadn't moved in 10 minutes, hadn't offered input. Just observed with that expression Sam had learned meant the angel was calculating possibilities beyond human perception. "Cass," Sam said, "you've been quiet. I have nothing useful to contribute yet." "That's not true. You always have something." "Then here's what I have all three of us see different solutions. All three solutions have costs we can't afford. But we're going to choose one anyway because inaction is also a choice, and the worst one available." Dean poured himself another glass. "So which poison do we pick?" Sam moved to the table and sat across from his brother. The maps, the documents, the accumulated evidence of failure, all of it spread between them like a battlefield. "We need to lay it out," Sam said. "All three options. No politics, no avoiding the hard parts." "Fine." Dean leaned back. "Option 1, we find it. We throw everything we have at it. Every weapon, every ritual, every hunter still standing. We accept that some of us won't walk away. But maybe we end this." "You can't kill it," Castiel said. "You don't know that for sure." "Yes, I do. Multiple attempts have been made. The thing isn't alive in a way that allows death. It's a condition. You might as well try to kill gravity. Then we seal it, bury it, lock it somewhere so deep it can't reach anyone. That's been tried as well. It escapes. It always reaches its targets. The only successful containment was passive keeping it isolated where no one could see it. And that containment failed the moment your British friends opened the door." Dean's knuckles were white around his glass. "So you're saying option 1 is suicide?" "I'm saying option 1 is violence against a problem that doesn't respond to violence. You'd be throwing lives away for catharsis, not results." Sam watched his brother process that. Watched him want to argue, then swallow it, because he knew Castiel was right. "Option 2, Sam said. "We go after the trigger. Every image, every file, every backup. We perform a ritual to sever the connection between visual perception and the entity's response mechanism." "You have a ritual that can do that?" Dean asked. "I have 3 that might. They're Enochian, old. The kind of thing the men of letters archived because they were too dangerous to use." "Why dangerous?" "Because they don't just target specific images, they target the concept. The ability to recognize certain patterns. If we use them, we're not just deleting files. We're editing human cognition, making it so people can't see certain things even if they're looking directly at them." The room went very quiet. "That's mind control," Dean said. "That's survival. We make it impossible for anyone to perceive the entity's face. The mechanism breaks because the trigger no longer functions." "And what else breaks? What else do people stop being able to see? How do you control something like that once it's out?" Sam didn't answer immediately. He'd spent the last 6 hours reading those rituals, understanding their architecture, tracing the implications. "I don't know," he said finally. "The texts aren't clear. It might be precise. It might be broad. We won't know until we use it." "That's insane." "That's the price. We accept uncertainty to save certainty." Dean looked at Castiel. "Tell him he's wrong." "He's not wrong. He's terrifying, but he's not wrong. You can't seriously be considering this." I'm considering that doing nothing means watching people die. Sam's proposal offers a chance, however slim, however dangerous, of stopping the mechanism. That's more than we have now. Dean stood and walked to the board, stared at the numbers like they might change if he looked hard enough. Option 3, he said without turning around. Cass does whatever angels do. Seals it, binds it, makes it so the thing can't hunt anymore. Castiel's expression shifted, not quite reluctant, more like wary. That is possible, he said slowly. Both brothers turned to him. But, Castiel continued, it requires a vessel, permanent containment within a living host. The entity would be bound to me, unable to act, unable to hunt, but also unable to be released without killing me in the process. That's not an option, Sam said immediately. It's the cleanest option. No ritual with unpredictable effects. No combat we can't win. Just removal from the board. By trapping you forever. I'm already trapped. In this vessel, in this world, in the choice I made to side with humanity. This would just be a different cage. Dean's voice was flat. No, it's my choice to make. It's a stupid choice, and we're not letting you make it. You don't have authority over my decisions. I have authority over letting my friend commit suicide. It's not suicide. It's purpose. Angels are meant to contain evil. This thing isn't evil, but the principle remains. I would be fulfilling my function. Sam felt something break in his chest. Cass, no. We're not doing this. There has to be another way. There are 3 ways. I just outlined them. Pick one. The silence that followed felt like drowning. Sam looked at Dean. Dean looked back. Neither of them spoke. They'd been through this dance before, the moment where every option was wrong, and they had to choose anyway. We need more time, Sam said. We don't have more time, Castiel replied. By tomorrow morning, another 20 people will be dead. By next week, the number will be triple digits. We choose now, or we choose never. Then we choose never. We refuse. We find a 4th option. There is no 4th option. Dean's voice cut through. Yes, there is. Both of them looked at him. We do all 3, Dean said. Or parts of all 3. We don't put our eggs in one basket. We hit this thing from multiple angles. That makes everything worse, Sam said. We'd be spreading resources. I'm not talking about resources. I'm talking about contingency. Sam, you prep your ritual. Make it ready, but don't use it unless we have to. Cass, you keep the vessel option as backup. And He trailed off. You what? Castiel asked. Dean reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. He set it on the table and smoothed it flat. It was a printed image, not the entity. Just a screenshot, a file directory showing dozens of copies of the fatal image, each with a different name, each backed up to a different server. I do what I should have done from the start, Dean said. I look at it. I make myself a target. And then I lead it somewhere we can seal it. For good this time. That's option 1, Sam said. The one Cass just said was suicide. No, option 1 was fighting it. I'm not fighting, I'm bait. Big difference. You'd die. Maybe. Probably. But if it works, if we can get it into the old Men of Letters containment protocols, the ones that held it before, then it stops hunting, goes dormant, and stays that way until someone's dumb enough to look again. Sam stood so fast his chair scraped concrete. Absolutely not. It's the best plan we have. It's martyrdom disguised as strategy. It's taking responsibility. This thing got loose because people were careless. Someone needs to clean it up. That's what we do, Sam. We clean up messes. Not by dying, by doing what's necessary. They stood facing each other across the table. Sam could see the exhaustion in Dean's eyes, the weight of every person they hadn't saved, the math that said they were losing. Castiel spoke quietly. If you do this, Dean, you'll have perhaps 6 hours before it reaches you. Possibly less. The entity doesn't sleep, doesn't pause. Once you're marked, the clock starts. Then I better move fast. You'll need to travel to the containment site. Set up the protocols. Ensure everything is ready before it arrives. I know. And if anything goes wrong, if the seal doesn't hold, if the protocols fail, you'll die for nothing. The entity will continue. The deaths will continue, and we'll have lost you in the process. Yeah, I got that part too. Sam's hands were shaking. Dean, please, there has to be another way. There isn't. You know it. I know it. We're just arguing because arguing feels better than accepting. I'm not accepting you dying. You don't have to accept it. You just have to let me do it. Sam looked at Castiel. The angel's expression was carefully neutral, professional. But Sam could see the grief underneath. You're really going to let him do this? Sam asked. I'm going to help him do it right. If he's making this choice, he deserves support, not sabotage. That's not support. That's enabling. Call it what you want. Dean's not wrong. Someone needs to bait the trap. Better it's one person who volunteers than forcing the choice on someone else. Sam wanted to scream, wanted to overturn the table, wanted to shake both of them until they saw sense. Instead, he said very quietly, I'll prep the ritual as backup. If your plan fails, it won't fail. If it does, I'm not letting people die because we put all our faith in one option. Dean nodded once. Fair. And Cass keeps the vessel option ready. Castiel inclined his head. Agreed. So we're all just preparing to die, or worse. That's the plan. That's the only plan that gives us coverage, Dean said. 3 options. 3 of us. We pick our poison, and we hope at least one works. Sam sat back down. His legs felt weak. I hate this. Yeah, me too. They sat in silence. The numbers on the whiteboard hadn't changed. But they felt heavier now, like gravity had increased in the last 10 minutes. When? Sam asked. Now. Tonight. We've already lost too much time. The ritual needs preparation. 6 hours minimum. Then you have 6 hours. I'll be on the road by then. Where's the containment site? South Dakota. There's an old Men of Letters facility near Bobby's place. Been sealed since the 50s. No one's touched it. No one knows it's there except us. Sam pulled out a map and found the location. Drew a circle around it. That's 8 hours driving from here. Then I better skip the speed limits. Castiel was already moving toward the door. I'll gather what you need. Salt, iron, holy oil. The old binding protocols from the archives. If we're doing this, we do it properly. He left without waiting for acknowledgement. Sam and Dean sat alone with the numbers and the map and the weight of what they'd decided. You could still change your mind, Sam said. I won't. I know. But you could. Sam, I'm just saying it. So you hear it. So you know there's an exit if you want one. Dean looked at him. Really looked. The kind of look that carried years of hunting together, saving each other, losing pieces of themselves in the process. "I know," Dean said. "But I'm not taking it." "Why?" "Because if I don't, you will. Or Cass will, and I can't watch either of you do this. We can't watch you do it either. Then don't watch. Just remember I went out doing what I do best. Saving people, hunting things. The family business." Sam felt his throat close. "That's not comfort. It's not supposed to be. It's just true." Castiel returned with arms full of supplies, salt lines, binding sigils, pages torn from ancient texts. He spread everything across the table like preparations for surgery. "The site needs to be prepared," he said. "I'll go ahead. Set the foundation. You both follow when ready." "I'll come with you," Dean said. "No point waiting." Sam looked at the ritual texts he'd pulled from the archive. Complex, dangerous, the kind of thing that could save everyone or damn them all. "I stay here. Finish the prep work. If your plan fails, I need to be ready to activate mine immediately." "And if yours fails?" Dean asked. "Then Cass uses his." "And if that fails?" No one answered. Castiel gathered his supplies. Dean grabbed his jacket and weapons that wouldn't help, but he carried anyway. They both moved toward the door. Sam stayed seated, watching them prepare to leave, possibly forever. "Dean," he said. His brother stopped, didn't turn around. "If this works," Sam continued, "if you pull this off and survive, I'm buying the drinks for a year. Better be top shelf." "It will be." Dean nodded once and walked out. Castiel followed. Sam sat alone in the war room with equations that didn't balance and choices that all led to loss. He picked up the ritual text and began to read. Every word was a countdown. Every symbol a prayer he didn't believe in. The numbers on the whiteboard watched him work. By midnight, they'd be obsolete. By dawn, everything would be different. He just didn't know if different meant saved or shattered. Sam kept reading anyway, because that's what he did. That's what they all did. They chose the least terrible option and hoped it was enough. The facility in South Dakota had no name, just coordinates and a rusted gate that hadn't opened in 60 years. Sam arrived at dawn to find tire tracks in the dirt and the gate hanging loose. Dean and Castiel were already inside. He could see light from their flashlights moving through the underground structure like ghosts mapping territory. He descended the concrete stairs slowly, counting each step. 43 down. The air got colder the deeper he went. At the bottom, a corridor stretched into darkness. Old wiring dangled from the ceiling. Water damage stained the walls. But the structure itself held, reinforced, built to last beyond the men who'd sealed it. Dean met him halfway down the hall. His brother looked exhausted, hollow. "It's done," Dean said. Sam waited for more. None came. "How?" "Cass walked me through it. The old protocols. We set up the containment array in the central chamber. Iron, salt, Enochian binding, everything the men of letters used before. And I looked at the image, marked myself. The thing came. 6 hours, almost exactly. Castiel sealed the entrance behind it. It's in there now, sealed, dormant. Sam felt something unknot in his chest. "You're alive." "Yeah, barely." The thing, Dean stopped, shook his head. "It got close, real close. But the seal activated before it reached me. Froze it mid-stride, like hitting pause. It's not dead. No, can't kill it. But it's contained, back to passive state. As long as no one sees its face again, it stays that way. Sam looked past his brother toward the chamber. Can I? No, don't go in there. Don't even look through the door. We've covered everything reflective, disabled anything that could create an image. But the less people see, the better. And the trigger? The image is online. Dean pulled a small electronic device from his pocket. A hard drive, battered, sealed in plastic. Spent the last 3 hours using every method Ketch's people could provide. Physical destruction, electromagnetic pulse, remote deletion. We hit every server we could trace, every backup, every cached copy. That's not enough. I know, but it's what we've got. Most of the major copies are gone. What's left is scattered, encrypted. Hard to find unless you're looking for it specifically. People will look. Maybe, probably. But we've seeded warnings, made it toxic. Every hunter network, every forum, every channel we could reach, there's a standing order now. This image is cursed. Don't download, don't share, don't even acknowledge it exists. Sam rubbed his eyes. He hadn't slept in 30 hours. How many people know the truth about the entity? Maybe 24 hunters who helped with containment. About the scope of what we did to lock it down, just us. And BMOL. Ketch pulled his people back after Cleveland. They're calling it a loss, writing reports, blaming us for making it worse. Dean's smile was bitter. They're not entirely wrong. Castiel appeared from a side room carrying equipment. He looked exactly as he had before, same coat, same expression, but something fundamental had shifted. A weight Sam couldn't quite name. The secondary wards are complete, Castiel said. Triple layer binding. It won't be easy to break accidentally. But it can be broken, Sam said. Everything can be broken. But this is as close to permanent as we can manage without divine intervention. And as we've established, divine intervention isn't coming. Sam watched the angel set down supplies. Are you all right? Castiel considered the question. I'm functional. That's sufficient. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have. We contained a threat. People will continue dying from exposures we couldn't prevent, but the mechanism has been disrupted. That's the best outcome available. How many more? Unknown. Perhaps 12 confirmed exposures remain unresolved. The entity is sealed now, so it can't pursue them. But we can't verify that without checking risks, new exposure. The 3 of them stood in the corridor, the weight of unfinished business pressed down like the tons of earth above their heads. We should go, Dean said finally. Nothing left to do here. They climbed back to the surface. Daylight felt wrong somehow. Too bright. Too ordinary. Sam had expected the world to look different after everything they'd done. Instead, it just looked like Kansas. Fields, sky, wind. Dean locked the gate and welded it shut with a torch from the Impala's trunk. The metal glowed orange, then cooled to black. Permanent wasn't possible, but this would hold for years, maybe decades. Long enough for the next generation to make their own mistakes. They drove back in silence. Highway stretched ahead, familiar and meaningless. Sam watched the landscape pass and thought about the numbers on the whiteboard. 73 confirmed exposures. How many had they saved? How many had died while they argued about methods he'd never know? And that not knowing would sit in his chest forever. At the bunker, they unpacked weapons they hadn't used. Sam put away the ritual texts he'd never activated. The Enochian formulas that would have reshaped human perception. He'd been ready to use them. Would have if Dean's plan had failed. That scared him more than anything else about the past week. Dean went straight to the shower. Sam heard water running for 40 minutes. Castiel disappeared to check on matters that required attention. Sam knew that meant the angel was avoiding them. Processing. Angels didn't grieve the way humans did, but they felt loss. Maybe deeper than humans, because they remembered everything perfectly. Sam sat alone in the library and opened his laptop. He'd set up alerts for unusual death patterns. For the next week, he'd monitor. Watch for signs that containment had failed, that the entity was hunting again. The alerts stayed quiet. One by one, the hunters they'd mobilized stood down. Bobby called to confirm the network had received the warnings. Said people were scared. Good scared. The kind that kept them alive. "You did what you could," Bobby said on the call. "That's more than most people manage." Sam didn't feel like that was true. But he thanked Bobby anyway and hung up. Dean emerged from his room 3 hours later, clean, dressed, but still carrying that hollow look. "I'm going out," Dean said. "Where? Nowhere specific, just out. Need to drive, clear my head." "Want company." "Not this time." Sam watched his brother leave. The bunker felt cavernous with just him in it. All this space, all this knowledge, all this history of men who tried to protect the world from things it shouldn't have to face. And they'd barely managed to contain one. He checked the alerts again. Still quiet. He checked news feeds, looking for patterns. Unexplained deaths, locked rooms, the telltale signs. Nothing. Maybe they'd gotten lucky. Maybe the handful of remaining exposures would resolve without casualties. Maybe the entity would stay sealed until long after Sam and Dean were dust. Maybe. He didn't believe it, but he wanted to. Castiel returned after nightfall. Didn't explain where he'd been, just sat across from Sam in the library and said, "I spoke with another angel, asked about the entity, whether heaven was aware of its current status. And they acknowledged it had been contained, noted that human intervention had proven adequate, then closed the conversation. That's it. That's it. To heaven this is resolved. A problem that solved itself through mortal effort. They've moved on." Sam closed his laptop, and hell. Silent. Crowley was right about the business implications. Dead humans can't make deals. They'll avoid escalating this further. So we're alone again. We were always alone. We just had a clearer demonstration of it this time. They sat in silence. Not comfortable, not entirely uncomfortable. Just two beings who'd seen the same horror and survived it. "Do you think it's really over?" Sam asked. "No. Containment is temporary by definition. Eventually someone will find the facility. Someone will be curious. Someone will break the seals thinking they know better. And when they do, we'll have the same problem we had before. So this was pointless. This bought time. Time for people who weren't exposed to live their lives. Time for us to prepare better methods. Time is never pointless when measured against death." Sam wanted to argue, wanted to say that time wasn't enough, that they should have found a permanent solution. But he was too tired to fight. Dean returned near midnight. Didn't say where he'd been. Just grabbed a beer from the fridge and joined them in the library. "News?" he asked. "Quiet," Sam said. "Good. Let's keep it that way." They sat together. Three people who'd made choices they couldn't take back. Three people who'd saved some and lost others and would never know the final count. The bunker settled around them. Old wood creaking, ventilation humming, the sounds of a sanctuary that had failed to protect them when it mattered most. But it was still standing. They were still standing. That would have to be enough. Sam picked up a book. Not research, just fiction. Something with a beginning, middle, and end that all made sense, where problems had solutions and heroes won cleanly. It was a nice fantasy. Dean fell asleep in his chair. Castiel watched him with an expression that might have been fondness, might have been resignation. The night passed slowly. By morning, the alerts were still quiet. By the end of the week, the Hunter Network stopped reporting anomalies. By the end of the month, the world had moved on to other crises, other disasters, other things that killed people for reasons no one could prevent. And in a sealed facility in South Dakota, something sat in darkness with its hands covering its face, waiting for the next person to make the same mistake. It didn't hate, didn't plan, didn't hope. It simply was. And that was the most terrifying thing about it. Sam closed his research notes and filed them in the archive under contained indefinite. The notation was a lie. Nothing was indefinite. But it was the best lie he had. Dean stopped talking about the week they'd spent fighting information. Stopped checking the news for patterns. Stopped reaching for his phone every time an unknown number called. Castiel remained, present but distant. An angel who'd chosen humanity and been reminded that sometimes humanity wasn't enough. The bunker held its secrets. The hunters kept their warnings. The world turned. And somewhere in a data center in Iceland, on a redundant backup server that no one had thought to check, a file waited. Encrypted, forgotten. Labeled with a string of random characters that meant nothing to anyone. Inside that file, an image. Inside that image, a face. The file sat untouched for 3 weeks, then 4, then 5. No one opened it. No one even knew it was there. But it was. And someday someone would find it. Someday someone would look. And the mechanism would begin again. For now, though, the bunker was quiet. The beer was cold. And Sam Winchester closed his eyes and tried to believe that sometimes surviving was the same as winning. It wasn't. But it was close enough to sleep.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And be sure to turn on notification so you won't miss our future videos. Thank you for watching and we will see you next time.